It started like a dream every woman prayed for, but ended like the kind of nightmare no man could ever forget. On a bright Saturday morning in the bustling town of Ogbomosho, laughter and music filled the air as friends and family gathered to witness the union of a beautiful young lady named Angela and her charming groom, Michael. But what no one knew was that beneath Angela's graceful smile and pure white gown, something dark, something rotten, was waiting to be exposed. Welcome, my dear viewers, to another powerful and shocking African folktale. If you love emotional, mysterious, and deeply moral stories, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and stay with me till the end. Because what happened after that wedding night will shake you to your core and leave you with lessons you'll never forget. Now, let's begin. Angela was the kind of lady everyone in Ogbomosho admired. Her calm face, elegant dressing, and soft-spoken nature made her the pride of her church choir. To many, she was the definition of decency, every man's dream wife. But those who had known her teenage days in Ibadan whispered otherwise. They knew the wild Angela, the one who used to party all night, move from man to man, and flaunt her beauty like it was a weapon. When she met Desmond, a rich Lagos-based guy who showered her with gifts and attention, she thought she had found love. Desmond drove flashy cars, wore gold chains, and spent money like water. What she didn't know was that behind that charming smile hid something dark. Desmond was a fraudster and a ritualist. At first, he treated her like a queen. He took her to expensive hotels, gave her an iPhone, and even sent her money for her mother's rent. Angela, young and naive, fell completely in love. But one night, everything changed. Desmond took her to a private villa outside Lekki. The lights were dim, candles burned at every corner, and strange symbols were drawn on the walls. Angela thought it was just part of his romantic surprises. But when he asked her to bathe in a bowl of red liquid and chant certain words, she felt a deep chill inside her. "Baby, just do it," Desmond whispered with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "It's for our love, so nothing will separate us." That night, Angela obeyed, without knowing she was being used as part of a dark money ritual. After that, her life changed. She began to feel sick from time to time. Strange dreams haunted her. Dreams of being buried alive, of crawling things moving under her skin. But she never told anyone. When Desmond suddenly disappeared one day, running from the police, Angela decided to start over. She moved to Ogbomosho and joined the church choir. With time, her new image of purity became her shield. She told herself her past was dead and buried. Then she met Michael. Michael was a kind, humble, and God-fearing man. He worked as a teacher in a private secondary school and had a heart as pure as gold. From the first day he saw Angela leading praise and worship, he told his best friend, "That's the woman I want to marry." Their love grew quickly, but Angela, driven by guilt and fear, made one strange demand. She told Michael she wanted them to remain celibate until their wedding night. "I want our union to be holy before God," she said softly. Michael smiled. "That's fine by me, Angela. I respect your faith." For months, they courted in purity, or so he thought. He introduced her to his family, who loved her instantly. She seemed perfect, too perfect. The wedding came with grandeur. White roses, flowing fabrics, and endless music. Michael couldn't believe his luck. He had prayed for a virtuous wife, and God had answered. But that night tore his soul apart. After the celebration, they entered their honeymoon suite at the Royal Crest Hotel in Ibadan. The room glowed with romance, candles lit, petals on the bed, soft music playing in the background. Angela smiled shyly as Michael held her hand. He whispered gently, "Finally, my wife." Angela nodded, her heart pounding. But deep inside, she felt something strange, something crawling. She ignored it, forcing a smile. Moments later, when Michael leaned close, she gasped and clutched her stomach. "Something's not right," she said weakly. Michael frowned. "What's wrong?" Before she could answer, she screamed, a sharp, painful cry that froze his heart. She fell to her knees, shaking violently. Michael panicked, rushing to help her. But then, he saw it. Tiny, white maggots crawling out between her thighs. Michael staggered backward, eyes wide, face pale. "Jesus! Jesus Christ!" he shouted, trembling. The air filled with a foul, rotten smell. Angela screamed again, clutching her body in horror. Tears poured down her face as she cried, "No! No! It's happening again!" Michael couldn't move. His legs felt heavy. His wife, the woman he loved, was decaying before his very eyes. Within minutes, she collapsed. He called the hotel staff, crying hysterically. They rushed her to a nearby hospital, but the doctor's expression when he examined her said it all. "This is not ordinary," the doctor murmured under his breath. Angela was in shock, her body weak, her breathing shallow. Michael sat beside her, holding her hand, terrified and confused. When she opened her eyes, she whispered faintly, "Michael, I didn't tell you everything." He leaned close, voice shaking. "Tell me what, Angela? What's happening to you?" Her tears flowed. "My past, it's haunting me." And as she began to confess the dark truth about her teenage years, the ritual, the lies, and the man named Desmond, the lights in the hospital suddenly flickered. A cold wind swept through the ward, and the doctor's voice echoed faintly from the hallway. "She's not supposed to be alive." The clock in the hospital ward ticked slowly as Michael sat motionless beside Angela's bed. The night was heavy with confusion, fear, and a smell that refused to leave his nose. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those maggots again, white, wriggling, alive. He felt like he was trapped in a nightmare he couldn't wake up from. Angela lay weak, her skin pale, her lips dry. The doctor had done everything possible, but he looked more terrified than professional. He spoke in riddles, avoided eye contact, and left the ward in a hurry. It was almost midnight when Angela finally turned her head toward Michael. Her voice was low, trembling. "Michael, I never meant to deceive you. I just wanted a new life. I wanted peace." Michael's eyes were red and swollen from crying. "Angela, please, talk to me. What did you do? What happened to you?" She sighed deeply, her eyes glistening with tears. "Before I came to Ogbomosho, I was not who you think I am. I lived a wild life in Lagos. Parties, men, lies. I did everything a young girl shouldn't. And then I met a man named Desmond." Michael's fists clenched unconsciously. "The same Desmond you mentioned earlier?" Angela nodded slowly. "Yes, Desmond was rich, powerful, and dark. He made me feel special. But one night, he took me to his house in Lekki. He said we were going to do something that would make us rich forever. I didn't know it was a ritual. He asked me to bathe in a bowl of blood and oil. I thought it was just one of his jokes, until I started feeling strange." She shivered, her voice trembling. "After that night, I started seeing shadows in my dreams. I heard voices calling my name. I even saw Desmond with a group of men chanting over my picture. When I asked him about it, he laughed and told me I was his spiritual bank. I didn't understand what that meant then. But when he vanished months later, my body began to change." Michael was silent, trying to process everything. "Change how?" he whispered. Angela's eyes filled with shame. "Sometimes I'd bleed when I wasn't supposed to. Sometimes, I'd smell like a corpse. I saw things in mirrors that weren't there. I tried to pray, to fast, but it never stopped." She paused, coughing weakly. "Then one night, I dreamt of a tall man in black robes. He said Desmond had traded part of my soul for his wealth. He said my body would decay slowly unless I paid the debt back. But I didn't know how." Michael was trembling now. "Angela, why didn't you tell me before we got married?" She broke down in tears. "Because I thought love would save me. I thought if I started afresh, God would forgive me. I didn't want to lose you. I thought it was over. I thought the past was buried." Her voice cracked with pain. But tonight, it came back. Just then, the lights in the ward flickered again. The nurse outside screamed, and Michael jumped to his feet. The air grew cold. Angela's body began to shake violently on the bed. "Doctor! Michael shouted, rushing out into the corridor. But when he looked around, the hallway was empty. The hospital, once filled with people, was suddenly silent. He turned back and froze. Angela was sitting up, her eyes wide open, glowing faintly white. The monitors beside her were beeping erratically. Her lips moved, but the voice that came out was not hers. It was deep, distorted, and angry. "You cannot break a covenant made with blood." Michael stumbled backward. "Who are you? Leave my wife alone." Angela's head tilted slightly as if studying him. "She belongs to us. Desmond offered her. She cannot be pure again." Michael grabbed the small Bible from the bedside table and began to pray, shouting verses through his tears. His voice echoed through the ward, trembling with both fear and faith. "Father in heaven, let your light destroy every darkness in this room." Angela screamed so loudly that the windows shook. The lights went off completely. For a moment, everything went dark. Then a blinding flash of light filled the ward. When the lights came back, Angela was lying still again, breathing heavily. The air smelled faintly of something burning. Michael rushed to her side. "Angela? Angela, can you hear me?" Her lips moved faintly. "Michael, he's coming. Desmond, he's not dead." "What do you mean?" Michael whispered, shaking. She turned her head slowly, her voice fading. "He's been watching me all these years. And now that I'm married, he's coming to take what's his." Michael froze. "Desmond is alive." Angela nodded weakly. "He never died. He just crossed over to a darker world." The door creaked open suddenly, though no one was there. Cold air swept through again, carrying a faint, deep laughter that echoed like it came from somewhere far away, and yet close enough to feel on their skin. Michael clutched Angela tightly. "We need to leave this place." But as he tried to lift her, the ward door slammed shut on its own. The laughter grew louder. And then, from the corner of the room, Michael saw a man's shadow forming against the wall. Tall, familiar, and smiling. It was Desmond. The temperature in the hospital ward dropped sharply. Michael could see his own breath forming white mist in the air. He turned slowly toward the wall where the shadow stood tall and motionless. Every instinct in him screamed to run, but his legs refused to move. Angela's trembling hand gripped his tightly. "Michael, don't look at him directly," she whispered, voice shaking. But it was too late. The shadow on the wall began to move. It detached itself and stepped forward, forming into the faint outline of a man. Broad shoulders, clean-shaven face, and a cold, mocking smile. It was Desmond. "Angela," the voice slithered through the air like a hiss. "Did you really think you could hide from me forever?" Angela began to sob, shaking her head in terror. "Please, Desmond, leave me alone. I did nothing wrong." Desmond laughed, a deep, chilling sound that echoed off the hospital walls. "Nothing wrong? You were part of the covenant. Remember? You bathed in the blood. You wore my ring. You said the words." Michael stepped forward, clutching his Bible tightly, even though his hands were trembling. "You're a demon. You have no power here. Leave us alone in the name of Jesus." Desmond turned his gaze toward Michael, his smile fading into something dark and hateful. "You think your little book can save her? Do you know what she did? Do you even know the kind of woman you married?" Michael's heart pounded, but he refused to back down. "Whatever she did, she's forgiven. God's mercy is greater than your evil." Desmond's eyes glowed faintly red. "Forgiveness? Do you think heaven will forgive someone who carried death in her womb?" Michael's eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" Angela gasped, covering her mouth. Tears streamed down her face. "Michael, I didn't want you to find out this way." Desmond's voice grew colder. "Tell him, Angela. Tell him what you did with the child." Michael turned to his wife, confusion and dread mixing in his chest. "What child?" Angela's voice broke as she cried, "I got pregnant for Desmond, years ago. He told me the child would make us rich, but I didn't know he meant a sacrifice." Michael froze, feeling like the air had been knocked out of his lungs. He took me to a strange house, Angela continued, sobbing uncontrollably. There were men in red cloths. They said the baby was special. They took him away from me when I gave birth. They said he would be reborn as Desmond's spirit double. After that night, I never saw the child again. Desmond smirked. And now, your debt is due, Angela. The womb that carried my child cannot belong to another man. You are bound to me forever. Angela screamed, pressing her hands to her ears. No, no, I belong to God now. The lights flickered violently, glass shattered across the floor, and every monitor in the ward began beeping uncontrollably. Michael dropped to his knees, shouting prayers through tears. Lord, send your angels. Deliver us from this darkness. Suddenly, the shadow lunged forward, slamming Angela back onto the bed. She screamed as her body convulsed violently, her eyes rolling backward. Michael tried to hold her, but an unseen force flung him across the room, slamming him against the wall. He groaned in pain but forced himself up, crawling back toward her. Angela, don't give in. Fight him. Desmond's voice echoed through her lips now, mocking and deep. You can't save her, Michael. Her soul is mine. Michael, bleeding from his forehead, crawled toward his Bible, grabbed it, and pressed it against her chest. You lie. She belongs to God, not you. There was a blinding flash of light. Angela screamed louder than she ever had before. For a moment, the entire ward was filled with light so bright it turned everything white. Then silence. When Michael opened his eyes, Angela was lying still on the bed. Desmond's shadow was gone. The monitors had stopped beeping. He rushed to her side, shaking her. Angela, Angela, please wake up. No response. He called the nurse, shouted for help, but no one came. It was as though the hospital had emptied. Tears streamed down his face as he laid his head on her chest. Don't leave me, please. You can't die like this. Then, faintly, a heartbeat. Her chest rose slightly. Her lips moved. Michael, she whispered weakly. He's not gone. Michael's eyes widened. What do you mean? She pointed weakly toward the corner of the room. The wall was cracked, and something was written there, smeared in what looked like blood. The sun returns at dawn. Michael's heart raced. The sun? What sun? Angela's eyes widened in horror. My child, the one they took. He's coming. Just then, the hospital lights went out again, and from outside, Michael heard the faint cry of a child, distant, haunting, and echoing through the night. Angela began shaking violently again, and Michael screamed for help, banging on the door. But the only answer he got was the sound of small, barefoot footsteps slowly walking down the hospital corridor, coming closer. And with each step, the air grew colder, thicker, heavier. Angela whispered through trembling lips, "He's here." The door handle began to turn. The metal handle twisted slowly. Creak. Michael froze, clutching Angela's weak body close. The room was so cold now that even his breath came out in pale mist. The faint sound of a child's footsteps echoed down the corridor. Slow, deliberate, and terrifyingly calm. Angela's voice was barely a whisper. Don't open the door. Please, Michael. Whatever happens, don't let him in. But before Michael could respond, the door pushed open on its own. A little boy stood there. He couldn't have been more than 6. His skin was pale as candle wax, his eyes unnaturally wide and dark. He wore nothing but a torn white shirt smeared with red mud, and his bare feet left faint, wet prints on the tiled floor. But the most chilling part wasn't his silence, it was his smile. That slow, crooked smile that didn't belong on a child's face. "Mommy," the boy said softly. Angela screamed, clutching her stomach. "No! Stay away from me!" Michael stumbled backward, shielding her. "Who are you? What do you want?" The boy tilted his head, studying him with eerie calmness. "Mommy said she loved me, but she let them take me." Michael's blood ran cold. You're the child." The boy blinked once, then nodded slowly. Desmond said you took my place, Uncle. He said I can't rest until she comes with us. Angela's eyes filled with tears as she crawled weakly toward the bed's edge. I didn't know, my child. I didn't know what they did to you. I was blind. Please forgive me. The boy's expression didn't change. You prayed for forgiveness, but you never prayed for me. Michael, gathering all his courage, stepped forward. Listen to me, boy. Whatever they told you, it's not true. Your mother didn't mean for any of this to happen. Let her go. The boy's head turned sharply, his eyes black as coal. You can't save her. He raised his small hand, and every light in the room shattered at once. The ward went pitch dark, except for a faint red glow now emanating from the child's body. Angela screamed again as her body arched unnaturally. Michael, she cried. He's pulling me. Michael lunged forward and grabbed her arms, pulling her toward him, but it felt like an invisible force was dragging her in the opposite direction. Her body began sliding across the floor, the boy standing still at the doorway, his hand outstretched. No, no, you can't take her. Michael shouted, tears streaming down his face. He fell to his knees, praying loudly. Father, in the name of Jesus, break every chain, every curse, every darkness from this woman's life. The boy screamed, an inhuman sound that made every bone in Michael's body vibrate. His red glow flared brighter, then flickered violently. Angela collapsed, motionless, and the boy vanished into thin air, leaving only the echo of his scream behind. Silence. Michael crawled to Angela, heart racing. Her breathing was shallow, her pulse weak. He lifted her head gently. Angela, please, stay with me. It's over. He's gone. But Angela's eyes fluttered open, unfocused. No, Michael, it's not over. Desmond, he's using him. He's using our child. Michael's voice broke. Then tell me what to do, Angela. How do we stop him? Her trembling hand clutched his shirt weakly. We have to find the covenant ground. The place where the ritual was done. If we can burn the symbol, maybe, just maybe, the bond will break. Michael nodded instantly. Where is it? Somewhere in Lekki, she whispered. A house with a red gate, by the lagoon. Michael wasted no time. He wrapped her in a hospital blanket, carried her out of the ward, and ran down the silent corridor. The whole hospital seemed abandoned. No nurses, no patients, nothing but the hum of the generator outside. They reached his car and sped into the dark night, the road stretching endlessly before them. Angela lay weakly in the passenger seat, whispering prayers between breaths. Hours later, as they reached the outskirts of Lagos, the rain began. Heavy and cold, like the sky itself was mourning. When they finally found the house, Michael stopped the car in shock. It was exactly as she described, a red gate, rusted but standing, with strange carvings faintly visible under the rain. The house was old, half-collapsed, surrounded by tall weeds. It looked abandoned for years, yet a faint light flickered inside one of the windows. Angela's body tensed. That's it. That's the place. Michael helped her out of the car, supporting her as they made their way through the muddy path. The smell of decay and burnt incense hung in the air. As they stepped into the compound, the gate slammed shut behind them on its own. Michael spun around, heart pounding, but there was no one there. Angela's breathing quickened. Michael, be careful. This place still remembers me. They entered through the broken door. Inside, the air was thick and hot. Candle stubs lined the floor in a circular pattern, dried blood stains visible between them. In the center, a wooden altar stood, covered in black cloth, bones, and a strange metal symbol shaped like a triangle within a circle. Angela's legs gave way, and she fell to her knees, trembling. That's it. That's the covenant mark. If we burn it, maybe my soul will be free. Michael found a can of kerosene in one corner and poured it over the altar, praying aloud. Father, break every evil that was done here. Let your fire consume this darkness. He lit a match. The flames rose instantly, roaring high and bright. The cymbal cracked, sparks flying. Angela cried out as if something inside her was tearing apart. Michael held her tightly, shouting prayers as the fire burned. "You're free, Angela. You're free." But suddenly, the ground trembled. The fire turned blue. And from within the flames, a voice boomed, deep, mocking, and furious. "You think you can destroy me with fire, Michael?" Michael froze. It was Desmond's voice. The flames burst outward, throwing Michael across the room. Angela screamed as a dark figure began to rise from the fire. Half man, half shadow, eyes glowing red with rage. Desmond stepped out of the smoke, smiling wickedly. "Welcome home, Angela." Michael, coughing and shaking, crawled to his feet. "You're dead. You're nothing but a demon." Desmond laughed. "Dead? No, Michael. Death was my doorway. And now, you'll watch her return to me forever." Angela's body began to lift slowly off the ground, her eyes turning pale white. She screamed, reaching for Michael as Desmond's shadow wrapped around her like smoke. Michael shouted her name, running toward her, but the fire roared higher, separating them. Desmond's laughter filled the house. Then, just before the flames consumed everything, Angela's voice pierced through the chaos. "Michael, find the ring. The ring will break him." And then, darkness. The house collapsed, flames devouring everything. Michael barely escaped, coughing violently as he stumbled into the rain. Behind him, the house burned like hell itself. But when he looked at his left hand, something shimmered in the mud. A gold ring, still warm, and faintly humming with power. The rain poured down in heavy sheets as Michael stood before the burning ruins, clutching the strange gold ring in his shaking hand. His clothes were soaked, his body bruised, and his mind spinning. The fire behind him hissed and crackled, throwing orange reflections across his face. Angela was gone. The woman he loved, the one he'd fought for, prayed for, and nearly died for, had vanished into the flames. Only this ring remained, glinting faintly under the rain as though alive. Michael stared at it. It wasn't just any ordinary ring. The gold was etched with tiny black carvings that looked like ancient symbols, and inside, faint smoke swirled as if trapped within the metal. He could still hear Angela's voice echoing in his mind. "Find the ring. The ring will break him." But how? He stumbled back toward his car, shivering. The road was quiet, the storm unrelenting. He slid into the driver's seat and sat there for several minutes, staring blankly at the steering wheel, too numb to cry. Then, slowly, he placed the ring on the dashboard and whispered, "God, if she's still alive, show me what to do." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, faintly, the radio came alive on its own. Static. Then a voice. "Return to where you vowed." Michael's heart nearly stopped. The voice was neither male nor female. It sounded like whispers layered over one another, deep and hollow. "Return to where you vowed, before the altar." Then silence. Michael's mind raced. The church. Their wedding church. That was the only place they'd made vows before God. Maybe, just maybe, that was the clue. Without thinking, he turned the ignition. The car roared to life, and he sped off into the stormy night. When Michael arrived at St. John's Anglican Church, it was well past midnight. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, and the streetlights flickered weakly. The compound was deserted, except for the soft light glowing through the stained glass windows. He parked and hurried toward the church door, clutching the ring tightly. As soon as he stepped inside, he felt it, an overwhelming stillness, like the air itself was watching him. The altar candles were burning. No one was there, yet the faint smell of incense and candle wax filled the air. He knelt before the altar, trembling. "Lord," he whispered, "if this ring holds her curse, then let your fire destroy it." He placed the ring gently on the altar cloth. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the church door slammed shut behind him with a loud bang. The candles flickered violently. Wind howled through the church though every window was closed. Michael turned sharply, and his blood ran cold. A dark mist was rising from the floor, slowly taking shape. The voice that spoke next chilled him to his bones. "So, you found it." Desmond's shadow emerged again, tall and monstrous now, its red eyes glowing brighter than before. "Michael," it said, almost mockingly, "you're a stubborn man. You should have left her to me." Michael backed away slowly. "I'll never let you have her. You've destroyed enough lives already." Desmond laughed, a sound that cracked like thunder. "You think you can break a bond sealed with blood? You don't even know what you're holding. That ring isn't just hers. It's mine." Michael glanced at the altar. The ring had started glowing faintly, the carvings pulsing like veins. "Then I'll burn it," he said firmly. Desmond's laughter stopped. "You do that," he said softly, "and she dies with it." Michael froze. "What do you mean?" Desmond smiled wickedly. "That ring carries her soul, Michael. When I marked her years ago, I sealed part of her inside that gold. Burn the ring, and her spirit burns too." Michael's heart pounded. He couldn't breathe. "You're lying." "Am I?" Desmond sneered. "Then look behind you." Michael turned slowly and gasped. Angela was standing at the back of the church. Her white wedding gown was torn and blackened by smoke. Her face was pale, her eyes dim. But it was her. She was alive, or something close to it. "Angela," Michael whispered. She took a step forward, voice trembling. "Michael, listen to me. Don't destroy the ring yet." Desmond's shadow smiled. "You see? Even she knows." Angela looked at Michael, tears streaming down her face. "I can feel it inside me. My soul is trapped in that ring. But there's a way to free me without destroying it." Michael's voice broke. "Tell me how, please." "The covenant was sealed by blood," Angela said, shivering. "It must be broken by blood, my own. If I bleed on the symbol in the ring willingly, it will release my soul." Michael shook his head violently. "No, that's suicide." Desmond's laughter filled the church again. "Oh, but it's true. And that's the beauty of it. Either way, I win. She dies, or she belongs to me." Angela looked at Michael, her face calm now, almost peaceful. "If this is the only way, then let it be so. I've caused enough pain." Michael fell to his knees, crying openly. "No, Angela, please. There has to be another way." Angela walked to the altar slowly, each step echoing in the hollow church. The candles flickered brighter as she reached for the ring. The moment her fingers touched it, the ground shook violently. Desmond's shadow screamed, swirling around them like a storm. "No, you can't." Angela ignored him. She turned the ring in her hand, found the sharp edge of the carving, and pressed it against her palm. Blood dripped onto the altar. Instantly, the entire church filled with light. Desmond shrieked, twisting, his form breaking apart. "No, she's mine. She's mine." Angela cried out as the light consumed her too. Michael ran forward, but the brightness blinded him. He heard her voice, faint but clear. "Tell my story, Michael, let others learn." Then, silence. When the light faded, the church was still. The candles had gone out. The ring lay on the altar, cracked open in two. Desmond's shadow was gone. Angela's body was nowhere to be found. Michael fell to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. "No, no." As dawn broke through the stained glass windows, the first rays of sunlight touched the cracked ring, and for a brief second, he swore he heard her voice again. "Thank you." He looked up through his tears and smiled faintly. But just as he turned to leave, he noticed something carved faintly into the altar wood. Words that hadn't been there before. "One debt paid. One still remains." Michael's breath caught in his throat. He turned to look at the ring again, only to see it had begun to mend itself, the two halves slowly fusing back together. The faint sound of a child's laughter echoed through the empty church. The laughter echoed softly through the church, light, playful, and chilling all at once. It wasn't Angela's voice. It was the same childlike tone Michael had heard in the hospital that dreadful night. He spun around, scanning every corner of the church. "Who's there?" His voice trembled. "Show yourself." The silence that followed was suffocating. The morning sunlight pierced through the stained glass, painting streaks of color across the altar where the ring still sat. Its two halves now completely fused together, glowing faintly gold again as though it had never cracked. Then, from behind one of the pews, a small figure stepped forward. It was the boy, barefoot, dressed in the same torn white shirt smeared with mud, eyes deep and hollow like a void. He smiled faintly, revealing small, yellowing teeth. "Uncle Michael," he said softly. Michael's body stiffened. His heart pounded in his chest. What do you want from me?" The boy tilted his head slowly, his dark eyes fixed on the ring. "You set Mommy free, but what about me?" Michael swallowed hard. "You're not real. You're just—" The boy interrupted, his voice suddenly sharper. "You think I don't feel pain? You think I didn't cry when they took me?" The church door slammed shut behind them. The candles relit themselves one by one, casting flickering shadows that danced across the walls. Michael stepped back, gripping his Bible tightly. "If you're her son, if there's still something human left in you, then let go. Let her rest in peace." The boy smiled faintly. "Peace? You can't have peace when your blood still walks the earth." Michael's throat went dry. "What do you mean?" The boy pointed at him. "You touched the ring. You took the vow." Michael looked down at his hand, the one that had held the ring, and froze. Faint black markings, like veins, were crawling slowly up his wrist, pulsing under his skin. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." The boy nodded slowly, almost sadly. "The debt passes to you now, Uncle. Mommy's part is done. Yours begins." Michael dropped the Bible in horror and stumbled backward. "God, please, no. Not me. I was only trying to help." But the air around him thickened. The boy's shadow grew longer, darker. His voice deepened until it sounded far older than any child's. "You meddled in blood you did not understand," it rumbled. "Now the covenant must be sealed again, with a new life." Michael fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "Please, please, take me instead. Don't hurt anyone else." The boy stopped, watching him. Then, in a slow, deliberate motion, he pointed toward the church door. Through the crack in the wooden frame, Michael saw movement, someone standing just outside. A woman. She stepped in quietly, shivering slightly, clutching a small Bible to her chest. It was Grace, the church's caretaker, a kind widow who had helped decorate the altar for his wedding weeks earlier. She blinked in confusion. "Mr. Michael? What are you doing here so early?" Michael's voice broke. "Grace, please, get out. Leave this place now." But she looked past him, her expression changing slowly to fear. Who is that child?" The boy turned his head toward her, smiling that same unnatural smile. "Hello, Auntie." Before Michael could move, the candles blew out. The air turned ice cold. Grace screamed, and the next instant, the sound of shattering glass filled the church. "No!" Michael roared, lunging forward through the darkness. He grabbed the boy, his hands burning as they touched the child's skin. It felt like hot metal. He threw him backward, sending him crashing into the pews. The boy hit the ground hard but rose again, unharmed, laughing softly. "You can't fight me, Uncle," the boy said, his voice echoing unnaturally. "You're one of us now." Michael looked down at his arm. The black marks had spread to his elbow. His vision blurred. He felt dizzy, weak. His breath came short. "Lord," he whispered, "give me strength." A faint whisper filled his mind. The ring. Michael turned toward the altar. The ring was glowing again, pulsing in rhythm with the marks on his skin. He realized, in that instant, that the connection went both ways. The ring bound both Angela's blood and his now. And if he didn't destroy it, the darkness would consume him too. But if he destroyed it, What if Angela's soul vanished forever? He hesitated. The boy stepped closer. "Uncle," the child said gently, "if you burn it, she'll be gone. You'll never see her again." Michael's tears fell freely now. "She's already gone," he whispered. "All I can do now is end this curse." The boy's smile faded. "Then you'll die with her." "So be it." With a cry that came from the depths of his soul, Michael grabbed the ring and slammed it against the edge of the altar. The gold split open with a flash of blue light, burning his hands. Smoke poured out, thick, black, and screaming like something alive. The boy screamed too, clutching his chest as his body began to dissolve into smoke. His eyes filled with fear. "No, Uncle, please, don't." The sound of thunder exploded overhead as the roof beams rattled. Every candle burst at once. Michael fell to his knees, his body trembling violently. The black marks on his skin began to fade slowly, dissolving into faint trails of light. The smoke rose higher, spiraling toward the ceiling, and for a brief moment, he heard two voices, one deep and angry, the other soft and calm. Then, silence. When Michael finally opened his eyes, the boy was gone. The church was quiet again, bathed in pale morning light. The ring lay melted on the altar, nothing but ash now. He was free, or so he thought, because as he stood to leave, he caught a glimpse of himself in the polished brass cross above the altar, and saw something that made his blood run cold. His reflection smiled back at him, but he wasn't smiling. The early morning sun crept through the church windows, turning the dust in the air into golden haze. Michael stood motionless before the altar, still breathing heavily, staring at the cross where his reflection had just smiled back at him. He rubbed his eyes quickly and looked again. Nothing. Just the usual gleam of brass, calm and still. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe trauma, maybe both. He wanted to believe the nightmare was over. The melted remains of the ring smoked faintly on the altar. Angela's voice no longer echoed in his mind. No laughter, no whispers, no shadows. Just silence, the kind of silence that follows after a storm when you don't yet know if it's truly gone. Michael turned slowly, his body weak, his shirt torn and stained. The once beautiful church now looked like a battlefield. Broken pews, cracked glass, soot marks crawling up the walls. He walked toward the exit. Every step echoed louder than the last. Outside, the world looked normal again. Birds singing, sunlight breaking through the clouds, a few early traders setting up stalls along the street. For a brief, fragile moment, he allowed himself to smile. It was over. He whispered quietly, "Thank you, God." But just as he reached for his car door, he froze. Sitting on the driver's seat was something small, wrapped in an old white cloth. His heart started pounding again. Carefully, he opened the door. The cloth was damp, faintly stained. He unwrapped it slowly. Inside was a child's toy. A small wooden carving of a boy, smiling, its surface still wet with mud. Michael's breath caught in his throat. No, not again. He dropped it immediately, but the doll landed upright on the car seat, facing him. Its head tilted slightly to one side, the same way the real boy used to do. The faint sound of a child's laugh drifted through the air, almost playful, almost human. Michael stumbled backward, trembling. The laughter faded, but a single phrase whispered softly from somewhere near his ear, low and calm like a breath. "The bloodline isn't done." Michael spun around, eyes darting across the street, but no one was there. Just a stray wind moving through the trees, carrying the last echo of that ghostly voice. He shut the car door, hands shaking, and looked back at the church one last time. The morning light hit the roof cross just right, reflecting a faint shimmer that almost looked like a figure standing there. A woman in white, watching silently. Angela. His throat tightened. "I'll find the truth," he whispered. "I'll end it completely. I swear." The wind stirred again, and for a split second, he thought he heard her voice, gentle, distant, and sorrowful. "Then hurry, before he returns." Michael blinked. The church was empty again. The streets quiet. Only the faint smell of smoke lingered. He got into his car, gripping the steering wheel tightly, staring at the toy still sitting beside him. Something inside him told him the fight wasn't over, that this was only the beginning. He started the engine. The radio flickered on by itself, static humming faintly. Then a voice, calm, haunting, familiar, came through. "Welcome back, Michael. You can't outrun what you've inherited." The car engine roared louder. Michael's knuckles went white around the wheel. He didn't turn the radio off. He just drove, straight ahead, into the rising sun, unsure where the road would lead. Because somewhere out there, something ancient was watching and waiting. If you were in Michael's shoes, what would you have done differently? Do you think the curse truly ended, or did it just change form? Share your thoughts in the comments, because this story might not be over yet. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because when part 2 arrives, the truth about Desmond's curse will shock you even more.